So in Throne of Liberty, you might be getting a ton of just trash gear. Gear that you don't really know what to do with, that you can't use yourself, and so you may be wondering how to make the most of it. Should you not actually be converting it all into the material transmutation? There are actually better ways. So in this video, let's break it down, all the steps you should take with regards to dealing with all this trash gear. In this example, you get a ton just by farming Nebula via all the pouches, but I think the majority of you will get all that excess gear when doing your open world dungeons, burning those Abyss tokens. You get so many drops. Like this example here. What am I going to do with all these blue things? Your first reaction might, yes, be to go to the material transmutation, click rare, and boom, it'll all be here, and you click convert points, and that's it, dealt with, gone. That's the super simple way. However, you can take these steps in order to make a load of Lucent, prepare for the next gear update, and therefore make the most of all this trash gear. Using the material transmutation is actually the last thing you want to be doing. If we look at step 1, you first want to check if you can sell that gear item directly. Some pieces you can, particularly when you get them through the Nebula pouches. They drop as unbound and directly sellable. So there's no harm just posting those, even if it's only going to sell for like 10 Lucent. Then you want to look at the cost of the lithograph. You nearly always have the option here to convert the item to a lithograph. However, you need to create blank lithographs to do so. And you need to be careful of the cost of that. It's different whether it's weapons, armor, or accessories. Check your crafters. And it requires the very important enchanted ink, which is generally pretty hard to come by, but also precious ores, whether that be yellow, red, or green. Those precious ores, you have to keep in mind, you can sell directly, like I have done here, and so they have a value of their own. And especially when you look at weapons, for a tier 2 weapon, you're going to need 2 blank lithographs. So you already have to spend 20 red rubrics, which is going to be a value, depending on your server, at least mine right now, 200 Lucent. So don't do like these crazy people and sell these lithographs for under 200. They're making such a loss. My general guidance is to try and sell the amount of ink you're spending at 5 times that worth of Lucent. So particularly for weapons, you need to spend 50 enchanted ink per blank lithograph, so you need 100 for a tier 2 weapon, so you want to get at least 500 Lucent from that ink, plus then the value of the 20 rubrics. So I wouldn't lithograph a weapon unless you can sell that thing for like 700 Lucent on my server in this example. These guys are losing so much money. Now, if the lithograph is not selling for much and so it won't be good value, you want to look at the trait on that item. Everything drops with a specific trait, which you can generally trait extract using trait extract stones. For example, this mana cost efficiency, we can check how much it would sell for, and it's just 59 Lucent. Would I do that? No. And the reason is, again, you should value your trait extract stones at the very least 1 Lucent per stone, but ideally 2 Lucents per stone. So I would want the value of this trait to be at least 100 in order for this to really be worth selling. And it's only 59, so I should look at alternative gear pieces to spend my trait extract stones on. And that's like step 3. Now, if none of the above apply, then that's it. You can't make Lucent of this item. You now need to look at other ways to make use of it. And what I would recommend next is using that gear piece to trait an item that you may need. I always generally focus obtaining Lucent over that, but of course if you want to rush and get a build maxed out ASAP, by all means use that item to upgrade traits rather than selling it. But in terms of all this trash gear, have a look at your different items based on what you are using and check if any of those items can be used to upgrade the traits on the gear you're currently using. Like this right here, I can go use the Phantom Wolf Gloves to potentially upgrade Magic Evasion. I could just use Blessings to do so, but I would not unless it's important to upgrade that trait, like I did with Attack Speed. So what I can do is simply just try to upgrade this, and it will give me these blessing points. And these blessing points can be very valuable because, again, you can use them to upgrade the trait by using lower tier items. And you'll be able to do so, most likely, in future tiers of content. And so gaining these blessings is very valuable. Even if you're trying to upgrade the trait with just a blue item, you can see you still gain a decent amount of blessing points. You gain 40. You can read the tooltip here. It's 40 for a tier 1 blue item, 60 for a tier 2 blue item, and 80 for a tier 1 purple item. So all of this blue, what you would say as trash gear, does have some value. Once you've gone and checked through everything here and upgraded and at least tried to upgrade the traits on all of those items, as per step 5, you can do it on items you don't necessarily use, just for the blessings, like I do with this bow. I may not necessarily actually use this bow, but I just use it for blessing stacking. I have never transferred anything into this weapon, which is really important to not do so, but I have already gained over 2,700 blessings. And this is simply by feeding in all of those blue trash items that you're obtaining, even the tier 2 blue items. I do not use the tier 2 purple items, as that will guarantee upgrade the trait and not give me any blessings. So it's not very useful to do that. You'll want to use them to upgrade traits, or as we mentioned in the previous parts, sell those traits or sell them as lithographs. You can see here how this can be very beneficial for, say, the next tier of content. Keep in mind, it's a bit of speculation. They may rework the entire system, but you will want to max trait a tier 2 purple trash gear piece, like I'm doing with this bow, by trying to upgrade those traits with just blue items, and you will gain a ton of blessings. Eventually, the gear piece will get max traded out, and that's it. You are then ready for, say, the next tier of content. Once that update does come about, you will transfer your equipped gear item. So for example, I get a tier 3 weapon and I no longer need to use this one. I will transfer this staff into this trash bow. I will need to unequip the staff, unlock it, remove all of the runes, remove it from the sync slot. I also need to upgrade this thing just once, not even a level, just to put a teeny bit of XP on it. And now I can transfer that staff into my trash item. Again, you will only do this once the new update's out and I obtain a new weapon I want to use. Then you can see the amount of blessings I would gain. That would be in addition to any of the other blessings I already have on this. And now you can transfer that trash item, this bow, into my tier 3 legendary gear piece that I may have obtained. And now I'll be able to upgrade the traits very cheaply by using those blessings on that new tier of equipment. The order again is your current equipment will get transferred into your trash equipment and transferred finally into, say, the tier 3 equipment. But it's very important again that you max trait this trash item with just, say, all blue items. Even tier 1 purple items works fine. And that way you're not rushing the upgrade, you're simply gaining the blessings and at chance upgrading it randomly. You will want it max traded though before you do this transfer. And so I would prioritize that if you're playing the long game. However, you may still have a bunch of junk gear which you can't do anything with because you may not have other gear pieces that can make use of those traits, like humanoid bonus damage. Maybe I'm not upgrading a weapon which has that. Then we go to step 6. You can potentially make magic powder from it. However, you need to look for 2 items of the same type which have the same trait. So I believe none of these weapons actually share anything. So I can look at, say, the armor pieces I gained. And here we even have duplicates of the same item. We can select these arms. We can upgrade this mana regen. In doing so, it now has 1 upgraded trait. And once you've done that, you can now dissolve that item and you will take away a ton more magic powder than if you didn't do the traiting first. You can see you normally only obtain 10, but if it has a trait upgraded, you obtain over triple the amount. So always worth doing this if you need the magic powder. I personally have thousands and thousands of magic powder. I probably don't need more. So for me, this is like the last priority. But you need a lot of that powder for, say, growth stones and lots of other areas with regards to crafting. But then finally, I would use the material transmutation. For me, this is always the last priority. It's where you put the junk of the junk that you really can't possibly do anything with. If I don't need magic powder, then I may as well throw that junk into here. You will click convert points, and yes, you gain the points there. But you obtain such low amount of points that doing so, I would generally not prioritize versus gaining the blessings and the magic powder if need be. The reason, however, that you are doing this conversion with material transmutation is not just to get, say, these gear items, which can give you traits which can sell for a decent amount too, or even lithographing them, but primarily these trait stone fragments, which you will need. You may not need them all right now, but eventually you will. These allow you to unlock additional traits on your items, which in total will amount to a significant boost of stats, and especially on armor will help a ton for your PvP builds, like getting more endurance, getting more evasion, to reach those certain thresholds, to have more evasion than your enemies hit, to have more endurance than your enemies crit. But then finally, you can save onto tier 2 weapons for future updates on material transmutation. There's no doubt they will eventually update the loot tables, that the gear that can drop from here. If not within this Talandre update, then when, say, Dracoryft comes out with tier 3 content, it will still be useful to have those tier 2 weapons, which give a ton of points to the conversion tier, allowing you again to obtain more of those trait fragments, which you will need again for future gear that you obtain. Even if we get new gear within our tier 2 update, that gear might be better than what you're currently using and you might want to switch to it. So you'll need more trait fragments. But that's ultimately it. My order with how you should sort your trash gear. The first 3 steps is gaining Lucent, and the following steps is gaining blessings, magic powder, and then trait resonance fragments for material transmutating. And then we also have how you will want to go about blessing stacking for, say, tier 3. Yes, this is playing the long game. Who knows, the game might be dead by then, but the devs are working on this update. There's no doubt it will come, even if the player base is a fraction of what it is now. I've played a game with less than 1,000 concurrent players on average, and that still gets regular updates every few months with big expansions, and that's just what's shown on the Steam charts. The player base is always significantly bigger when it shares all the consoles, platforms, and even has its own different launchers. So even though you might only see 20,000 concurrent players, keep in mind that's the amount of players playing at any one time. If the average player, which is generous, plays 2 hours a day, there are 24 hours in a day, just via the Steam charts, that's already over 250,000 different players playing this game. I would not be surprised if there are still over 1 million players playing daily with Throne and Liberty across all the different platforms. Just be aware again of what concurrent actually means. And 1 million players is easily enough to sustain a game and have it be continually updated for many years to come. Oh, and be aware, all of this prep with regards to, say, blessing stacking, getting more trait resonance fragments, will apply for when we get the new weapons, the Orb and the Gauntlet. Having a weapon with a ton of blessings that you can already transfer to the new weapon so you can max trade it out will be a huge gain. Even if we get those weapons before we, say, get tier 3, which I honestly suspect probably will get one of those new weapons this summer. So thanks all for watching, hopefully this helps, and we'll see you guys around.